Okay, video's late. Didn't plan on it being this late, but as if I haven't made it abundantly clear in the past, I'm really, really good at procrastinating. Really good at it. So yeah, this video is about 3 weeks late. I'm not proud of that, but I finally made it. It's not my best one, but it's one I wanted to do anyway. This week I am drawing Gilgamesh, which I'm sure excites a lot of people. A lot of people are into the Epic of Gilgamesh and his story. It's a pretty cool and kind of ironic story. The best ones are, I think. So without further ado, let's just hop right in. Alrighty. So this week's video, like I said, is going to be Gilgamesh. And if you don't read a whole lot of Assyrian, or I think it's Assyrian, is it Babylonian? It's one of those older Middle Eastern tales, and I believe Gilgamesh he was at one point an actual king. And as is common with many cultures, their kings, particularly those who perform specific or great amounts of feats or do a lot of good for their nations, become deified. This is why in Greek and in Egyptian cultures, the pharaohs are worshipped along with the gods, and the Caesars also are, in some cases deified. So it's not uncommon, or it's not unheard of. So it wouldn't be all that absurd for a much older culture to deify one of their older kings. And Gilgamesh is mainly talked about in the very, very, very long poem, technically, of the same name, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is an account of his life, of his rulings, and basically him being a troll to the gods the entire time. And that's basically the shtick of the story, is just he is so, strong and powerful and badass that he's so powerful that he makes himself a god and even greater than the actual gods, which understandably upsets them. One goddess in particular, and I don't remember which one it is because I haven't read the story in full. And it's been a while since I've actually done any research on this, but essentially he and this one goddess, I think it's Isis. No, is that Egyptian? Whatever her Assyrian counterpart is. I'm sorry, I'm not really good with this one because Middle Eastern mythology isn't particularly my strong suit, so I'm not super knowledgeable on this. I basically know that Gilgamesh, he's really powerful. He's kind of a jerk, but he's the protagonist, so he can do whatever he wants. He's the king, so of course he gets away with it. And the gods try to hold him accountable, but they can't, and they keep sending all these things to beat him, but none of them work. Like, they send this wild dude. They go into the wild and they find this man who's really strong and really powerful and is just totally ballistic, doesn't care for kings, doesn't care for rulers, and they basically send him to fight Gilgamesh. But then when they do start fighting, he's like, oh bro, you're a super big badass like me who's really strong and powerful, we should be best buds. And oddly enough, that's exactly what happens. They end up being best buds. So now the two of them are running around doing bro stuff. And now the gods have two problems to worry about. They send one dude to beat up Gilgamesh, and he's like, oh, no, I'm going to make you my best bud. So now he's on my side, haha. So now they got to deal with two of these dudes. And I know the guy's name. I don't remember it. It's not Enki or Enlil. Those are two of the gods. Those are two of the Anunnaki gods. I believe that's the same mythology. I don't remember again because I haven't studied this extensively. Perhaps I should have before this video. But yeah, they become best buds, and the gods are like, well, now we have two of them, so we'll send an even bigger threat. So there's this giant, monstrous bull, I believe it is, and they send that for them to fight, and the two of them just absolutely destroy it. And basically the entire Epic of Gilgamesh is just, the gods have Anunnaki having beef with this one dude who's super powerful, who's super strong, and is, you know, the king of this nation, even though he's a bit of a dick. Um, you know, they constantly have beef with this dude, and they can't get rid of him, which is kind of ironic towards the end of the story, because um, despite being so powerful, despite being so strong, and being able to like best the efforts of the gods to destroy him, there's one thing Gilgamesh can't deny, and it's that he's going to die one day. So he goes on this really long quest uh, to find like eternal life, or to figure out how he can live forever. And he runs into, I don't want to say it's Methuselah, but it's a person from the Bible, I think, supposedly, or someone of the same name anyway, who's lived since before the flood, and he's the oldest living person on earth. He's like, how did you live so long? You know, what is the secret to your eternal life? He's like, well, you know, if you can stay up an entire week, I will tell you. And so, you know, Gilgamesh, he tries to stay up for an entire week, you know, and I think he manages to stay up for like 2 or 3 days or something like that, and then he like passes out, and he doesn't wake up for quite a while after. And he wakes up, and Methuselah's like, yeah, sorry, no, you failed. I'm not. If you can't even stay awake, you know, for a week, how can you expect to live forever? And that bums Gilgamesh out, understandably. He's like, well, you know, there is one more way. At the bottom of the ocean somewhere, there is a special herb, and if you get this herb and you mix it into a potion and you take it, you'll live forever. So Gilgamesh, he sets out to find said herb, and I think he finds it. He's real happy. He's going to go home. He's going to give it to his apothecary, and they're going to make this potion. He's going to live forever. But when his back is turned, or while he's cooking dinner or something, a serpent comes up, like behind him, and like steals the plant and like scurries away with it. And it was like the only in the plant, like some I don't remember if like it was the only one he could find, or because it was so deep in the ocean and it only blooms like once a year, or it was one of those instances where it's extremely rare, and if you don't get it in that time where you find it, you're never going to get it again. So he, in defeat, kind of just goes home and rules until the day that he finally dies. And that's basically the story of Gilgamesh right there. I'm not as in depth with this one, with that, as I was with the Cuchulainn story, but even there, I left out a lot of detail because there's just too much with these mythological characters to go over in like a video like this, in a like 10-minute video. But they're still really cool stories. Basically, the story of Gilgamesh is a story of a man who can best the forces of nature. He can best society and foreign rulers and things, and he can best the efforts of men. But there's one thing he can't defeat, and ultimately nobody can defeat, and that is the inevitability of old age and death, which is a really interesting story. I mean, we're looking at, you know, a tale that's 4, 5, 6,000 years old. It's an extremely very old legend, but it's a moral that has been told thousands, if not millions, of times afterward, and you know is as true as the day. You know, everybody dies. It doesn't matter how powerful or how cocky or how strong you think you are. Inevitably, you are going to die one day, which is kind of a bummer, kind of a sad lesson to learn from today's video, but it's kind of funny too, you know. And you know, he's a really cool character that you hear about when you study mythology, but it's one of those things where like you don't hear a lot about Assyrian or Babylonian mythology. You don't hear a lot of tales from the Zoroastrian religion or things like that, because when you look at mythology, the first thing... Sorry, my cat is walking around my work area, so if you hear a jingling or other noises, that's him. That's the ninja. But yeah, when you look at mythology, all you hear is like, oh, Greek myth this, Roman mythology that, Norse mythology, ooh, Egyptian. That's all you hear about. You don't hear about Celtic or Mesoamerican or Native American or Inuit or African mythology, or you never hear about those. And you never hear about the myths and the legends of the ancient Middle East, which is weird because that's where, you know, life for humanity started. So I think it just needs a little bit more appreciation, a little more attention. So I think as I do this project, where I do characters of different mythologies, I'll focus more on entities and deities of the Levant more. because I just did one, I might actually go somewhere else. I might do like an African deity or an Asiatic one. If you're hoping I do some Greek ones, I'll get them in there eventually because that's one of those things too where it's such a staple. You just gotta, but I'm not going to prioritize like Greek or Egyptian or Norse mythology in this series. I feel like this one is shorter, but I know it took just as long to draw as every other video I've done so far. Which is interesting because each of these videos are about 10, 11 minutes long, but the process of drawing these pictures, because it's sped up, is probably more like 40 to 30 minutes long. And I definitely could probably fit a lot more into like the actual mythology. I could probably tell you almost the entire thing about the characters if I did that. But for an art video, I think that's just way too long. If I get popular enough, which I doubt, to where I do like streams and stuff, then yeah, we can talk and I can discuss. I can bring someone on, like I can bring Calico on, or someone like that, and we can discuss it more because I certainly love talking about these characters and this part of history that a lot of people just kind of sweep under the rug. Yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought there. I'm not super talkative on this one because again, I'm not. It's not my expertise. Middle Eastern mythology is not my expertise. But that's something I need to fix. So hopefully with this series, I'm going to learn as much as I talk about. And we're almost done here with this one. I'm not super happy with how this one came out, but I think that's because it wasn't super challenging for me because with my comics and character designs, I draw big buff guys all the time. So I don't know. Anyway, there's the final project, the Great King himself. I'll see you all in the next video.